What's up, guys and girls? So I've read a lot of interesting quotes and articles and stories, but this one just jumped off the page and I felt like it's very useful to share to some of you guys because it may help you get through tough times and slash or impact you to grow and reach your full potential. Anyhow, here's a little background on the story. So reddit.com is a website where you can pretty much post a main topic and then people can reply to it. So they have this thing called an Ask Me Anything, and the author of the book The Snowball, Alice Schroeder, she did a Ask Me Anything, and basically this is one of her replies to a question that was sent in. So a little bit more background. The book The Snowball was about the life of Warren Buffett. It's, in my opinion, the only full, complete biography of Warren Buffett. And it's very detailed, very elaborate, and very, very long. But I feel like it does a great job. And ultimately, if you guys don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's like the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 richest person in the world right now. And what's interesting about him, there's many things, but the one interesting thing that is relevant to this little quote I'm going to share with you is the fact that his method to obtaining wealth involves a mathematical concept called compound interest, which pretty much means over a long amount of time, many 50, 60 years, the effect of compounding allows you to grow things from an initial investment of $10,000 to something like $200 million. And it's what has allowed him to amass a fortune of 30 million or so. And so the long story short, the purpose of this this quote is basically just to illustrate exactly how people think that, oh, my life is over, or things are going to go downhill from here, and that's not always the case. In fact, nowadays we got people who are 20 years old who are getting married, and they're already in a very pessimistic mindset. Because some people believe that after marriage it's all downhill. You pretty much restarting the cycle for your children, and your life has ended pretty much. And a lot of people fall into this mindset, and they just sort of convince themselves to live a average lifestyle, just tolerating things. But without further ado, here's her reply to a question sent in. The question was simply about at what point in your life did life get easier? And then he goes on to talk about how his friend is working as an accountant, which relates to Alice Schroeder because she was an accountant. Warren Buffett, his lifeblood is all about business, and accounting is the language of business. And so the questioner, or the guy who sent in the question, pretty much talks about how his friend is taking the CPA, which is the Certified Public Accountant test, and now he's working for a company and he's working long, hectic hours. And he remarks on how nowadays Alice Schroeder seems to just invest and serve on boards, and he has life taken a turn for the better. And how did you go about achieving this status? At what point in your life did life get easier? Her response to this was quite interesting. This is what she says. Well, I will tell you a little story. When I was 47, I was having a difficult year for a variety of reasons. That on its own surprised me quite a lot. At 47, a lot of people stress about having their life settled by the time they're 20 or out of college. And some people just stress over it. They're like, my life should be perfect at this point. And here's a very accomplished woman having a lot of difficulties at 47. So to read on, it says, and Warren sat me down and said, look, When I was 47, I thought my life was over. That surprised the heck out of me too. Susie had left me, that's Warren's wife, and I had already accomplished everything I thought was worthwhile as an investor. Warren, being the genius he is in so many ways, had already amassed, in his eyes, quite a fortune by that time. It wasn't close to even $1 billion, and he wasn't close to the richest person in the world at that point. But in his eyes, he only needs like $100,000 to survive every year, and everything else is just like pointless to him. He even to this day, all his expenses are just very rudimentary. Even the food he eats is very cheap. It's pretty much fast food. He likes fast food better than well, not always fast food. Like, he goes to restaurants, but he'll buy stuff that costs like $20-$30 a meal, $50 a meal, rather than the 5-star stuff, because he thinks the cheap stuff tastes better, and that's his lifestyle. Anyhow, to continue on, he said Berkshire, that's the corporation he runs, as far as I knew, was at its peak, and to my surprise, my life kept getting more and more interesting since. And most of the really important things I've done happened after I was 47 and thought my life was over. I'm not going to elaborate on that. If you want to know more, you can read the book The Snowball. But I mean, just there's so many facets of how his life got better and more interesting. One of them being the fact that Berkshire grew to a enormous company, one that's one of the largest companies in America. Long after he was 47. It's incredible. To continue on, she says the reason he said was that he had stored up so many experiences, good and bad, in the first part of his life, and as a form of compounding, their positive consequences unreeled over the next 30-some odd years. So that's something to ponder. I'm just going to read that one more time just to emphasize it. Berkshire, as far as I knew, was at its peak, and to my surprise, my life kept getting more and more interesting since, and most of the really important things I've done happened after I was 47. I thought my life was over. The reason, he said, was that he had stored up so many experiences, good and bad, in the first part of his life, and as a form of compounding their positive consequences unreeled over the next 30-some years later. I really feel like the right person with the right mindset and the right work ethic, attitudes, if they could live forever, they could literally achieve everything. Now, why isn't this always the case with most people? It's because their mindsets, their negative beliefs, and a lot of their habits have them convinced, and they literally believe that there's nothing left, and they don't do anything, and they just lash out at other people. They're just very negative, and those sort of people can't get anywhere. Warren, he had the right mindset, right attitude, in my opinion, but he thought that was it, like that was his peak, and he was obviously very happy and satisfied with his life based off of that. One of the things that I found very interesting was I would say like 10-20 years ago, not even, maybe 30 years ago, but I would say just 20 years ago, Warren was not that well known. 30 years ago, he was not a well-known guy at all, and literally it's just the recent effects of compounding based on his level of return every year, and the amount of money he had already amassed through Berkshire, and how Berkshire compounds that money, that caused him to go from a no-name guy who has a net worth of 200 million, 500 million, to one of the richest men in the world. And it's very interesting how that works, because he met Bill Gates, who's like one of the only people richer than him in terms of net worth, and he met Bill Gates at almost the right time. If let's say things were somehow switched and the timelines were different, and Bill Gates still made all his wealth and net worth in Microsoft, but he did it like a few decades earlier, so that Bill met Warren when they were the same age, or vice versa. Let's say Warren somehow by met Bill Gates when he was the same age as Bill, and Bill was born earlier and somehow created Microsoft a few decades earlier. The point is, if that would have happened, Warren wouldn't have been the same person in many ways, but in one way is the fact that he would have just been this individual who still he had a lot of money, 100 million net worth, but he wouldn't have been like the richest person in the world. And so it's just very interesting how they both met each other at the true peaks of their potential before both of them went into philanthropy. And it's very interesting because, like, literally, if you had met Warren a few years, I wouldn't say a few years, like a decade or two younger, Bill Gates, like, Warren literally would have just been some no name that no one knew. And it's very interesting how that happened. Also, it's very interesting how Bill didn't want anything to do with Warren and was sort of pushed to meet Warren, and Warren, same thing with Bill, and then they just hit it off, and this unlikely friendship just developed into something amazing, to them ultimately building a philanthropy movement that has influenced many billionaires, many millionaires to donate their money, as well as donate Bill and Melinda and Warren's money as well. It's funny because if they hadn't met and befriended each other, I'm talking Bill and Warren, it's interesting because Warren would not have donated all his money to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Not all of his money, but most of his money. And on top of that, if Bill never heard about Warren, he would have been a completely different person as well. His beliefs on parenting and his certain beliefs on philanthropy were spurred by articles written by Warren, as well as talking to Warren himself. So it is a very interesting thing, and that's all I really wanted to say. Hopefully it was helpful, and thanks for watching. Oh yes, and as always, I'm starting a new channel. It's already up and running. It's called youtube.com/Will's Book Reviews. And rather than this motley channel, my main channel right now, where I'm just posting everything, that channel will be focused on book reviews. And hopefully I will be doing a book review on The Snowball sooner or later, which will be uploaded on that channel. So to check it out, just check out youtube.com/Will's Book Reviews. That's with the S at the end. And as always, like, favorite, comment, share this video with someone you think would be influenced or like it or can understand it. And thank you for doing so if you did. Share it on Twitter, email, Facebook, link it somewhere. And most importantly, if you like these sort of videos, hit the subscribe button. It's free and it'll let you know when I post a new video. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any feedback, and I'll see you guys later.